Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good evening, friends. In our Domestic Corporate Law webinar series on Wednesdays, we have been discussing in Part 9 series about Labour Code. We have completed two codes, the Industrial Relation Code and the Code on Social Security. Effective last week, we have started reading and understanding the provisions of Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code. Here, we are going to see the brief overview of this code, and we are going to see about the health and working conditions today. Of course, the safety measures and the key changes which are brought in this code. A sincere thanks to Mr. Sundarajan for this detailed presentation, also providing us some interesting statistics between coal mines and non-coal mines, collecting the data till the year 2019. Some of the legends used in today's presentation. First, let's understand an overview on this code. We all are aware that there are over 100 state and 40 central legislations entailing various aspects of labor, such as your industrial disputes, the health, safety, working conditions, wages, related acts, the social security, your EPF, ESI, maternity benefit, payment of gratuity, all those stuff. Since there are vast number of legislations, it becomes a challenge not only for the entrepreneurs but also for the regulators to monitor and ensure compliance. And since the government is already under implementation of several initiatives for the purpose of ease of doing business, due to which we are evidently seeing the key result of India's rank moving by virtue of this ease of doing business being given effect to. And labor code which is brought in is no exception to it. And this particular code is a compilation of all the state legislations and central legislations, thus implemented with consolidated legislation replacing 29 central laws. These four codes are the Code on Wages, Industrial Relation, Code on Social Security, and the current topic which we are discussing about Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions. We all are aware that Code on Wages, the first code, was given the President's assent as early as 8 August 2019. And the other three codes were given assent on 28 September and notified on 29 September 2020. Central government has been vested with this power to notify these codes, and we also saw in an informal press release that the Ministry of Labour and Employment has informed PTI, Press Trust of India, that all these four codes are likely to be implemented effective December. We have to wait and watch as to when this particular code is going to be given effect to. Some of the key features of this code are to lessen the burden of employers, since there are various registrations under various central laws and state laws, and to make it a single registration platform, and to protect the health, safety measures and the working condition of employees. This is from the employee's perspective, to keep it free from all the hazards that are likely to cause injury or disease to the employees. Separate pattern in which the appointment letter has to be issued, and also the timeline within which such letter has to be issued to every employee upon appointment in the respective establishments, and the duty on the employer to dispose of all the hazardous and toxic waste, including e-waste, from the establishments. And it is mandatory for the employers to ensure that annual health checkup takes place. And it also makes it mandatory to provide a safe working environment so that the health, safety and working condition of the employees are well protected. Now let's move on to the first part of today's session, which is occupational safety and health. Central government shall constitute a board in the name of National Occupational Safety and Health Advisory Board to advise them on matters pertaining to the standards, rules and regulations implemented under this code, and to monitor the implementation of the provisions under this code and issuance of policies and programs relating to this occupational health and safety, and any other matter which may be referred from time to time by central government. And state governments, like how central government shall constitute this national board, state governments shall constitute state advisory board on matters arising out of administration of this code. The first one is implementation of the code for central government. State government is vested with the power for administration of the code. And the board of this particular board, that is your National Advisory Board, shall comprise ministries and the various state boards along with the representatives of their employees, professional bodies and other competent persons who are connected in relation to this field of occupational health and safety. Central government, by implementing this, shall devise policies and programs relating to the standards set for occupational health and safety, and which shall also include the physical, chemical, biological and other hazards to be dealt with for the working life of the employees to ensure the safety from such hazards. Medical examination or test to be conducted for all the employees, and norms relating to the hazards to employees and monitoring, measuring those exposures relating to such hazards and such other matter which are as listed in Schedule 2 to this code. Relating to surveys, it shall provide power to various authorities to conduct surveys, and employer shall certainly provide access and facility for enabling such surveys to be taken, and this survey shall require any worker to undergo medical test as may be considered expedient, and if for responding to this survey a response time is taken by the employee, then it shall be considered as his billable hour and it shall not be carved out from the working time for the employee, because it is for protecting his health and safety that this particular survey is being conducted. So that the compilation of survey will provide the detailed analysis and result of ensuring that the establishment is well protecting the health and standards, safety standards of the employees. The next one is relating to the interstate migrant workers. Last week also, while discussing the key definitions, we did go through this particular interstate migrant worker, where the key criterion to be considered for such worker shall be is recruited by an employer, or it could also be a contractor for working in another state. A Bihar person being appointed in a Chennai corporate, or who moves on his own state to another state. So on his own, he is moving to another state and obtains employment there. For example, this Bihari gets relocated to Chennai with his family and gets an employment. Even then, he will be considered as an interstate migrant worker, provided his maximum wages shall be 18,000 per month. CG shall collect, compile and analyze these statistics, and a separate database shall be collected with regard to such interstate migrant workers. They may register themselves as interstate migrant workers by providing their declaration and identity proof, more particularly your Aadhaar. And workers who have migrated from one state to another state and who are self-employed in another state may also get registered on this particular portal. We will now see the establishments where this particular safety committee shall be constituted and safety officers shall be designated. Employer shall appoint such number of safety officers in an establishment where the factory workers exceed 500 or more, or factory is involved in some hazardous activity or process involving 250 workers or more, or building or construction workers who are deployed in a number exceeding 250, or in case of mine, the number is 100 or more, and in the ordinary course of business. And safety committee, the composition shall be a perfect balance of your employer and employees as the appropriate government orders. We have already discussed about the definition of appropriate government. We move on to the next part of today's session, which is your health, safety and working conditions. Very important as far as this code is concerned. No doubt, employers' obligation to protect the health, safety and working condition of the employees, and some of the modes by which he shall ensure compliance to it are to maintain cleanliness and hygiene, and to maintain that environment free from all these noxious gas or fumes or dust, and effective arrangement with regard to treatment of all waste, your sewage waste or your garbages and effluents, and potable drinking water and adequate lighting facility to protect the health and safety, and to prevent overcrowding, like how during COVID we are saying, no, overcrowding could be avoided in the normal course of business itself, to ensure safety and good working conditions to avoid overcrowding, space to employees or other persons as the case may be, or sufficient arrangement provided to all the employees with regard to all the accommodations which are provided, internal accommodations in the establishment, and adequate standard maintained for humidification and such other arrangement which the central government considers to be fit to ensure that the objectives of safety, health and working conditions are met. We move on to part 3 of today's session, the welfare provisions as enunciated in this code. Adequate facilities for both male and women employees, and to provide necessary locker rooms and bathing facility for all the employees irrespective of their gender, and a place to keep their clothing when they are having uniform or attire, specific attire in the establishment, sitting arrangements for all employees who are obliged to work in a standing condition, more particularly in manufacturing sectors, canteen facility where the number exceeds 100, and in case of mine, medical examination is must for all employees, and adequate first aid boxes to be readily accessible during the working hours, and such other welfare measure as the central government may consider it to be necessary, and such other facilities which are required to be provided by the establishment or the employer are to set up ambulance facility where again the number exceeds 500 workers, to provide suitable medical facility so that the employees and workers are well protected during rainy days, and adequate shelters or restrooms provided for all the employees irrespective of their gender, and lunchroom in every factory and mine where there are more than 50 workers, and appointment of welfare officers, like how we discussed about establishing the safety committee or safety officer. There is this concept of appointing a welfare officer in factory, mine or plantation. We already discussed in last week's session about the definition of mine and plantation sector, where workers exceeding 250 are deployed and they are employed in the ordinary course of business, and to take care of the condition of service of all these establishments, and employer to also provide rent-free temporary accommodation for living nearer to this particular building where these workers are being employed, and principal employer to incur expenditure in providing accommodation to the contractor where they are building or construction workers, and creche facility for the use of children under the age of 6 years of those employees to be provided at suitable location at such distance, either separately or along with such other amenities as are being provided by the establishment where the number exceeds 50. Some of the key changes in the code we are going to see in comparison to the old provisions. Last week we discussed that this code is again by virtue of repealing 13 such statutes which were prevailing, and we also discussed in the brief overview of the code that this is again an outcome of repealing the state legislations and the central laws, by virtue of which we are now going to compare it with the erstwhile provisions in the old acts. The maximum permissible limit of exposure of chemical and toxic substance in the case of manufacturing sector was as specified in second schedule in Factories Act. Now the power is vested with the central government to determine the permissible limit of exposure. And for creating this creche facility, which we just discussed, the number was 30 under section 48 of Factories Act. Now it is 50 as discussed in the previous slide, where we also reviewed that it shall be accessible to the employees and provided for those children who are below 6 years of age. And occupier shall be appointed in the case of Factories Act for any establishment having 500 or more workers. Now it is welfare of officers and the limit is thus reduced to 250. Friends, I'll be happy to take your questions. Otherwise, we will conclude this session by seeing one statistics. Here we are going to see the distribution of fatal accidents in the case of coal mines and non-coal mines. And if you see, during the year 2018, as per the statistics available with us, the dumpers trucks causing this fatal accident, the percentile is major 1, attributing to 30%, and in the case of non-transportation machinery, which leads to accidents in coal mines, is 20%. And others are almost hovering between 4 to 6% or maximum 10%. In the case of explosives or fire or rope haulage, or in the case of fall sites, which are common in the case of coal mine. So in all these cases, if you see, the percentile which attributes to accident is only 4%. The case of other transportation machinery, it is only 2, and miscellaneous, it leads to 10% of accidents occurring in the case of coal mine. We will now see the similar distribution pattern in the case of non-coal mines, where again the dumpers trucks attribute to 17%, and the fall off sites, of course, here it is 19%, where in the case of coal mines we saw that the fall off sites is only 4%. And the non-transportation machinery again has a major attribute in the case of both coal and non-coal mine, where here it is 15%, and in the case of coal mine it is 20%. And other causes attribute to 9, whereas it is 4 in the case of coal mines, and there is no cause of concern with regard to transportation machinery. Fall of objects or persons again leads to a major cause of concern, which is 11 or 13%, and electricity attributes to 4% here. Fire, of course, is not prevalent, which is very common in the case of coal mines. And we are now going to see another statistics relating to the trend of accident in mines. The mines, we have again bifurcated it into coal mines and non-coal mines, and we have consolidated this from the year 2001 till the year 2019. Of course, 2019 data is a provisional one. And if you notice here, the number of accidents, fatal accidents, 2001 it was major, and the serious accidents in the case of coal mines, 2005 it was major, and coming down till 2019, for the next decade, if you see the fatal accidents, there is a huge decline from the numbers in hundreds, it has gone to only tens. So there the maximum number was in the year 2012, leading to only 79 accidents in coal mines. And 2013, it was a higher number, not as severe as compared to your 2005. Here it is only 456, whereas in the year 2005, it was 1106. And in the case of non-coal mines, in the first 2001 to 2010 decade, if you see, the fatal accidents were not that larger. It was only 71 being the major one in 2001. And in the case of serious accidents, the higher number was in the year 2002 with 205 being reported. And in the case of 2011 to 19, that second class of decade, if you see again, there is a significant reduction in the fatal accidents in non-coal mines, where it is only, if you see the higher number, it is 47 in 2018, and the lower number being your 36 reported in 2 years, 2012 and 19. And for serious accidents, the major cause of concern was in the year 2011 with 82 being reported. Friends, we are going to conclude this occupational safety, health and working condition in our next Wednesday webinar session. If you have any questions in the first 3 labor codes, please feel free to discuss in our next Wednesday webinar. Until then, take care, stay safe.